Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 328. It is the third day of the week, aka the Spirit Bomb workout. I am feeling great right now. I'm looking forward to this workout. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today. The body holds on until the spirit can rest. So, the main reason why I wanted to talk about this, or this subject matter even came up, is because recently Ozzy Osbourne passed away right after doing his farewell concert with Black Sabbath, which was an interesting thing, and because he literally died like a week later, which is insane. So, very interesting, and then it got me thinking about this. And of course, there are some other possible occult-like undertones that could be happening, but I won't discuss that here today, maybe not even on this channel, maybe in a future episode, because honestly I'm not very knowledgeable of it, but certain parts of the music industry are very heavily encapsulated in that, let's just say that. But I don't think of it like that. I'm thinking of it as in the terms of holding on. Your body is holding on until you can really finish whatever you are need to finish on this earth and then get off. And because it reminds me of certain stories that I've heard. Hell, I even have a slight story of my own personally that I've heard about this, where you hear that people will hold on until, like, you know, their body is like frail, and they'll hold on until like one person visits them, and then once that person visits them, then they finally pass, like moments later, or like, you know, a very, very short time after. So it's interesting to think about stuff like that, where it's like finally the body can finally rest right after the soul can, you know. And I want to look into that and explore the idea of it, the esotericness of it, the just generally speaking interesting thing that for some reason it's very common. Weirdly, it's very interesting that it happens all the time. So I would love to talk about that and just maybe some of the implications that are behind that. But with that being said, I will see you at Mother Base.
I just started this day off with 80 press, which was pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand. The body holds on until the spirit can rest. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this was because, as when this was recorded, Ozzy Osbourne had recently passed, and he had just done his final Black Sabbath concert, which is kind of insane because it was literally like a week later he ended up passing. So it is a very interesting phenomena that happened. It's that with a lot of people, where they end up doing their final thing and then a few weeks later they pass. Another one example of this is the Ultimate Warrior, who was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, went on to Monday Night Raw, did his speech there, and then all of a sudden the next night he died, which is insane. It's not necessarily a show of character or something along those lines, but I do think there is something where the soul understands when your body is about to go, so it lets you do whatever you can in the last bit that you have. It's like a weird sentience, like a clear mind. You can see it's almost in like older people where they'll have a lucid moment where all of a sudden things kind of just get lucid, even for a short period of while. And this isn't just necessarily in this case, but there are many cases I've heard where people have been bedridden for weeks, and all of a sudden one day they get a burst of energy ready to do a bunch of stuff. It's as if their spirit knows that the body is almost out of time and allows them to do one last thing as if it was a regular day, or have the strength to do something for the other people or be there. Another reason why I wanted to also discuss this is because it reminded me of a story of my grandmother, who unfortunately passed last year, but she had a ruptured artery, so she was hanging on by a thread when she had her accident, and thus had to be rushed to the hospital because of it. And she was basically holding on until my family, the rest of my family, so my father and my few aunts and uncles, came along with them and waited until basically my father got to her, and then was the last one to hold her before she ended up passing. Very, very traumatic situation to happen nonetheless, but it was something where the time was literally ticking as things were happening. But thankfully and fortunately, she was able to hold on until she was able to say her goodbyes to her children, and then move to the next life. And it is an interesting thing because I don't think it's necessarily something that a lot of people really think about because it's very close to death. And obviously, death is not a fun subject matter, but I think a lot of people understand when these things kind of happen. It's also kind of in a sense where you see people who are bedridden, close to death, will start seeing shadows next to their bed and all this other stuff. And speaking of shadows, it makes me think of those who unfortunately don't have the opportunity to get the spirit to rest and are forever in a cycle of possibly just being stuck in this realm because they never got that chance to close the door on whatever their spirit wanted. And I'm not going to say that this is what ghosts are, but I could believe that that's what it is. I could believe it if you told me that, and I could see how that could be a possibility, specifically because there are so many tragedies and so many unfortunate events that happen in this world where people don't have a chance to say goodbye or say their condolences or put their final thoughts to rest, really, so then their body can move on and they can enjoy the afterlife. But that's kind of a different subject for a different day, because I do feel like when it comes to ghosts and their reasons why they're here, that's just one of many that could possibly be there. But that's all just another story for another day.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today. The body holds on until the soul can rest. So the main reason why I wanted to talk about this was because the news that, unfortunately Ozzy Osbourne passed away, and that made me think about the stories of people who end up having this phenomena kind of happen to a loved one or a beloved one, where they get to do the one last thing that they wanted, and then they were able to pass immediately after. It's very interesting that even when things are dire and you're on literally death's door, your body can hold out until finally that your soul is able to be at peace with itself. Now, obviously, this doesn't always happen. Of course, there are some unlucky souls that don't get to do this, and thus probably why we have ghosts, but that's a different subject for a different day. But I think that this is a kind of an interesting subject matter, because I want to talk more about the soul as time progresses. So I will probably do a series about the soul in general, because it's an interesting concept. It's a metaphysical concept, in which case that me and you understand it as as something, but it's not necessarily something that is universal / something that is well understood. We kind of know what it is, but we haven't really explored the bounds of what a soul is for the most part in general terms, I guess. There are many philosophers who have looked into the idea of the soul and what drives it, but of course there's, many of those things aren't necessarily talked about nowadays. They'd rather talk about other stuff, but still, it is something that I want to explore. And this is a kind of I wouldn't say a primer, because I don't know if I'm going to do a series about souls quite yet, and not the video games. I just wanted to mention this because eventually I will do a video about the soul and all that other stuff that comes along with it. But I think it is interesting to hear these types of stories and to kind of know that, in a way, as long as you're surrounded by loved ones, you get to be able to have a final moment that allows you to put yourself at ease in a way, which is kind of nice and a little reassuring in a weird sense, because obviously it involves death, which is no fun, but also at the same time you get to live out the final thing that you need to do, and then your body lets go at that moment. It's weird. It's almost as if people know exactly right before they go, but that's kind of a different conversation for a different day. But for this one, it's just that phenomena that's very interesting to me. But with that being said, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This was very different, I would say. It's not necessarily that out of the wheelhouse of what I talk about on this channel, but a very different subject matter, a little bit more esoteric than normal. So please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy. Stay safe out there. Stay cool out there. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.